This is my fourth time trying to record this video, and it's a mess.
Yeah, that's because I was way too chatty about things that no one cared about, and it was kind of unorganized. I'm trying to make this one as clear and concise as possible so that you can still get things out of it. But
anyways, let's not get into that and let's get right into the video. Obviously, I'm not going to be mentioning all the resources that are available, and there's a bunch of different methods to study, I guess. Before starting anything, you need motivation, and this literally applies to anything. The reason why I think this is so important is because it's what's going to keep you from questioning your whole process. It's going to be what's helping you from questioning your whole existence. It could literally be anything, like listening to BTS songs and understanding them without looking at the lyrics. It could be watching K-dramas without subtitles. It could be understanding Lee Do-hyun's Love Confession and reciprocating it. You know, just whatever floats your boat, as long as it gets you out of bed and makes you want to study or whatever you want to do. Yeah, and I also wanted to share this video right here. It's just something that really motivated me for some reason, and basically it's just two Koreans that have to guess who amongst a crowd of like 5 foreigners and 1 Korean is actually Korean, and then seeing how fluent everyone was, it just made me want to be able to speak as good Korean as them. So I was like,
okay, I'm gonna go practice my speaking.
Just find what your trigger is. Maybe that video will help you, maybe something else will. But if you're ever feeling in a funk or you don't feel like studying and all that, it's completely okay. I've been through that, and to be honest, these days I haven't been studying much Korean just because of time. I'm gonna show you what I do basically to still incorporate as much Korean as I can into my daily routine. If you're interested in Korea, maybe you are also interested in Korean entertainment, which involves K-dramas, K-pop, Korean shows. Running Man is so good. These are great opportunities for you to improve your Korean, you know? There's a bunch of different ways to do so, and I'm going to show you what I do. So first of all, when I'm watching K-dramas, I try to put Korean subtitles on, you know, because when subtitles are here, your eyes are just drawn to them and you just have to read them. And then reading the words, listening to that word, and being able to put it into context, it's just so much easier to remember it and use that word in the future whenever you need it. And you might say,
well, adding Korean subtitles is great, but I'm not going to understand anything.
And yes, that is true, but there's some websites like Viki or even Netflix that allow you to put both Korean and English subtitles. Netflix allows you to do that, but you need a Google extension that's called language learning, and you just have to activate it once you're on Netflix. So when you put both Korean and English subtitles, you can hover over the Korean words that you don't understand, and then there's going to be a dictionary that's going to pop up, and then there's going to be the translation and a bunch of examples. But it also includes romanization, and I don't know if you can remove it. I tried, but then I gave up. If you really want to study Korean, you should really not rely on romanization, just because first of all,
it's ugly as heck,
and second of all, it's going to hinder your Korean pronunciation. You know, Korean has its own alphabet, which is Hangul. If you want to learn Korean, like, might as well learn everything that comes with it. You know, it's a package, it's a whole. You have to take it all or leave it all. The second thing I do is watch YouTube. Now, I think it's a really great way to incorporate as much listening into your routine as possible. Just because as much as studying grammar structures and like writing is important, I think speaking and listening is just as important, if maybe not more important. Like, it really depends on what your goals is. If it's just to get the topic, then okay, just learn grammar structures, that's fine. But for me, I want to be able to hold conversations and be able to express myself. So yeah, that's why I put more importance towards watching shows. That's what I tell myself. So I just want to recommend some channels. The first one being Pisangu. It's just a prank channel, but they have this series called What If a 7-Year-Old, and it's literally so funny. Like, the videos are so fun to watch. They crack me up so much. So I would highly recommend it if you want to have a good laugh. The second channel I want to mention is called Yone Iyagi, Yeon's Couple, and this might not be everyone's cup of tea. I must admit, it's just a couple channel, but they're literally so cute, and I don't know, it just like lifts up your mood. It's just so fun and cute to watch. So if you're ever feeling sad or in a bad mood, you can just watch them and then you'll have a smile on your face. So good stuff. Another thing I would like to recommend is if you ever feel like exercising, I would recommend watching Korean workout YouTube channel. There's this one channel, it's called Vitamin Zini. I really like her videos. Like, she's so energetic, so entertaining, so fun. Her exercises or her moves are so unique in a way. Like, it's not the kind of moves that you would see in other videos, so I would highly recommend you doing that. Okay, now enough about video talk. Let's talk about how I memorize my vocabulary. In order to do so, I have two methods. I either use apps or I use notebooks. When I use app, I use the one that's called Drops. Now this one is to memorize vocabulary, but it's also more to learn new one. So it just has a bunch of different categories. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I did pay one because I wanted to unlock as much categories as possible before canceling my subscription and then just doing 5 minutes per day. But yeah, basically you just have a bunch of categories and they just have like interactive games to help you memorize the vocabulary that they're teaching you.
Oh my god, that was so hard.
So I use that. I also use this other app that's called Quizlet. Basically what you do is you make your own flashcards, so that's based on your own vocabulary list. I used to use it quite often, but nowadays I don't because I just got really lazy to write down all of the vocabulary because, you know, I still suck at writing Hangul on my keyboard, and switching from one keyboard to another is time consuming and I'm not all about that, so. But another tip,
another one.
if you have Reddit, if you don't download it, there's this community that's called Korean, just Korean. And there's a bunch of awesome people that share their Quizlet sets of vocabulary. So you could just like take advantage of that. But yeah, anyways. Now the second method I use is more classic. It's just writing down the words over and over and over again. I just use this random kind of disgusting notebook. And I have another notebook. This one I just write down all the vocabulary that I want to remember from dramas that I've watched, from what I've read, from textbooks, all that kind of stuff. I just take it with me sometimes in the train to like memorize the words or go through them again. But yeah, lately I've been more into sleeping in the train, so
Books, transition into
books. I have an unnecessary amount of Korean books, and that's because I was way too obsessed in collecting Korean textbooks, and it's so unnecessary. Like, I'm literally just only using 3, and there's like so many free resources online that you don't have to invest in textbooks if you don't feel like it. Certain people have preferences with physical goods and with digital goods, like it's just a question of preference. So the first textbook I'm using is called Master Korean. I really like this textbook. I think there's like 6 or 8 levels, so 8 books. I just really like it because it goes really in depth in all the different chapters. So another book I'm using is this one by Talk to Me in Korean. They have beginner and intermediate. If you had to get one book out of all of them, I would actually recommend this one. While Master Korean goes more in depth about everything, this one takes a bunch of scenarios that are super useful in real life and you just get an overview. Like, you can see it at a higher level and then read the dialogues, have the vocabulary associated to it, and then learn the grammar that is relevant to it. So yeah, I would really recommend this one if you just want to see it at a higher level. What I do with this book is I actually don't study it. I read it in bed. Like, I read the dialogues out loud just to practice my speaking skills and practice my pronunciation. And I know some of you might be reluctant about doing that because you might say,
well, I wouldn't even know if what I'm saying is right, if I'm using the right pronunciation.
But first of all, I don't think that matters. And second of all, I think it's really important and really great to practice just because you get used to hearing you talk Korean. But what I do, so one tip I can give you is I use this app that's called Hello Talk. So actually the purpose of Hello Talk is finding a Korean exchange partner. But yeah, the way I use it is I take advantage of that moment section and I just ask a bunch of questions whenever I have some. So about differences, about different words, the meaning of some words that I can't find online, the equivalent of some expressions, just a bunch of random things. And I also use it to post recordings of myself reading a section of a book. And what ends up happening is that Korean natives are going to correct you, they're going to give you feedbacks on what you said, and they're even going to record themselves saying the exact same thing that you did so that you can analyze the difference yourself. And I honestly think that's a great way to improve your Korean speaking. Try it. The last physical tool that I'm using is a random children's book that I bought in Korea. The way I use it is I just read it until I don't understand it. So see if I understand more words than I used to the last time I read it to keep track of my progress. So basically I just read the same page over and over again. I use this notebook to write down all of the grammar structures that I learned. And I learned most of them on Talk to Me in Korean. That's my favorite website. I know most of the people prefer How to Study Korean or whatever, but I just like Talk to Me in Korean a lot because they do so much. They provide so many great resources for free. They have a YouTube channel. I even learned that they had a podcast. But anyway, I just write down the grammar structures. Now I don't go level by level and structures by structures. I just jump from level 5 to level 8, and I just pick the ones that I think are going to be the most useful to me or that I just really want to learn. So I just write all of them down. And what I also do is after 4, 5, 6 grammar structures, I try to do a review thing where I put a bunch of English sentences that obviously incorporate the grammar structures that I learned, and I'm asking myself to translate these sentences. And that's because, you know, on your to-do list there's always a bunch of grammar structures that you want to learn and then check. We're all guilty of that because it gives you a certain like feeling of achievement or fulfillment, but honestly that's how I forget most of the grammar structures, and 1 or 2 days later I forgot everything. And the way I look up vocabulary is, well, obviously through dictionaries, and I use this app called Naver Dict. I think it's really good. They provide a bunch of examples. They also have this learning section in it, but I've never explored it, so I don't know what it consists of. But anyways, that's just a dictionary. They also have a translator, which is called Papago. I use it to translate sentences. And then another app that I use and I really like is called Hi Native. And basically it allows you to find the Korean equivalent to certain sentences, word or expressions that you feel like Papago or any other translators would fail to translate. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just going to show you a little clip here. The example that I had was I was looking for saying like half Korean in Korean, and I typed this on Papago, and then I had like the literal translation, which obviously was not what I was looking for. And then I went on Hi Native and they gave me the right structure, like the right expression. So yeah, I would highly recommend that app. They have an app or a website. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I'm losing my voice and I'm losing my mind and I'm getting really hungry and no one cares. But yeah, I hope you did find some helpful information in this. But yeah, I hope you could learn some things from this video or get some new ideas on how to study Korean yourself. At the end of the day, it's about finding what suits you the best, taking it at the pace you need, and I hope you all have a magnificent Korean learning journey and life and love and bye.